Alrighty, folks, this episode is getting shot with my iPhone today because I do not want to turn on my Blackmagic, which is sitting out here. I would rather shoot with an iPhone because I think iPhone is pretty good enough to show you all the features. I'm very sure you also are well thorough of all the buttons by now. So you know that there is a mode button on the top. Also, quick tip that if you, which was one of my major complaints on this camera, is that NP-BX1 doesn't hold a lot of battery when you're shooting 4K. So I carry power bank. The fun part of this power bank is that it powers on my 15-inch MacBook Pro also. And I mean, this power bank is something that we met on CES and we learned about it. The company is called Excitrus. So I'll post a link below, and I've done a small video to show you that this is the best power bank on the go because this is a monster. It powerhouses a 15-inch MacBook Pro that has i9 16 gigs 512. So this is my go-to kind of a power bank. Now let's jump in to the camera and see some settings. You can see that it turns on it actually charges with an external power bank, and when you press the record button, it actually records. So we are recording right now while you can run continuous power from an external power bank. Menu, this button, it actually changes according to what mode you are in. To access mode, you just go ahead and press this mode button. So at first there is this which is called HFR. HFR means high frame rate. Now in high frame rate, there's few of the major kind of differences is going to be, do you want a program? So program auto means that in this high frame rate mode, which is a slow motion mode, you cannot change your aperture and shutter speed. So what happens when we select this? When we select this, you will see that these are blinking, which means that you cannot change anything on this except for your ISO. So you can toggle between ISOs, and you can go from like ISO 125 to all the way to ISO 12,800. Now I would not cross even 4,000 on these. I would actually stick 3,200. That is the max that you can push, like a camera like this. But I would never go more than this. Okay, HFR, aperture priority. So in this, you can actually, it gives you that control to control between your aperture. So you can defocus the background, or you can actually bring all of your background to play. And then after selecting aperture 8, you can increase the ISO a little bit so that you get all the picture in the frame, but you will notice a lot of grains come up. So that is the reason I would not recommend you, to be very honest, A or P, which is program auto or aperture priority. You can play around with shutter speed. I would say shutter speed is one of the best ways to do it because high frame rates can be, messed around with a little bit of higher shutter speed. So out here 1/1000, and you can go all the way to 1/12,800. So that's your range that you can go in between or back and forth. But again, when we go to HFR, there is manual exposure. Now, this is what we all need to focus on. So in manual exposure, what we can do is that at first we can set this ISO to a desired one. So usually it's a low light situation right now. I will push my ISO to 2500, okay? And then I can, when my aperture is selected, I can open up the aperture and go all the way to maximum aperture, 1.8. Now, since it's a high frame rate, which means that it shoots round about like 480, and I'm going to show you how to see the frame rate or anything, the shutter speed should be double that amount. So 1/1000 is my maximum that we can shoot, okay? Next comes movie mode. Now, movie mode is a little bit tricky because you can do aperture program auto, which means automatic. You can do aperture priority, which means that it will only give you a range between different sort of aperture, and then shutter speed. Now, shutter speed and aperture, I would not actually even think about this. The most simple way to do is manual exposure. Go all manual. In that way, your main priority is to control this and bring this to 0. That's your main priority. And aperture 1.8 is your, so that you get a little bit of bokeh, and then you can always play around with the shutter speed, which is going to be 1 by 110, 1 by 125, depends upon what frame rate you're shooting. Now, enough of showing you through the menu, but what about the actual menu, which is this guy out here? So press the menu, and we are going to go through all of these points today. So at first, this is file format. Now, if I'm shooting, to enter into this format, you have to get out of the mode, which is a movie mode, and you have to go to a regular mode. So let's go to regular mode, which is manual exposure. This is more for pictures, and what you're going to do is that, again, you're going to press that menu button, and now you're going to see on number 1 on the camera, you're getting file and format. So in file and format, everybody says that shoot RAW. I say shoot RAW and JPEG. In JPEG quality, you keep it extra fine, and JPEG size, just keep it to the max, which is 20 megapixel. Now, the thing is that 20 megapixel is achievable because the sensor size is 3:2. That is the reason. But if I go to 16:9, what does it happen? It drops down to 17 megapixel. So that is the reason to get the extra amount of megapixel. Always select go 3:2 aspect ratio. Panorama, if you are doing it, just you can select it later on. Panorama direction also, if you're doing it, you can select it later on. But right now, it's not required. Then is long exposure noise reduction. One of the major, like settings right here, because if you're doing long exposure, there'll be a lot of noise, even on your tripods and everything. And since it's a point and shoot camera, you will see a lot of grain. So automatically this will be off. Go ahead and select on. Okay, and then high ISO noise reduction. So for example, if I'm going ISO to be like 3200 to all the way to 12,800, there'll be a lot of noise in the pictures, right? So go ahead and select that to be normal, and color space always keep as sRGB. You can go for Adobe RGB, but as a beginner, I would not recommend you to tinker around this and go with Adobe RGB. So where is the scene selection going to be? Well, for that, you have to be in a different mode. So go ahead and click on that mode button on the top. And after that, you scroll to the scenery button out here. And this is your scene selection. So you will see a menu is a little bit all over the place. Then you go to menu out here, and then you can select between sports action, macro, landscape. You can select sunset, night scene, handheld twilight, which means that it will turn on the stabilization and you can use long exposures, and then night portrait, for flash and everything. But the thing is that your ZV1 doesn't have a flash, so you can attach an external flash to it if you want. Anti-motion blur, you have pet scenes, gourmet, which is food and everything, fireworks, and then high sensitivity ISO and all that stuff. Basically, you do not need to play around with this also. So let's go back to our normal mode, which was our manual mode. So in manual mode, again, there is this drive mode, which is called single shooting, high continuous shooting, and then there is timer. So this mode is for those people, those who want to use timer. And, like for timers, you do have to go to menu. So for timer, you have to go to mode, you have to go to manual. And after you go to manual, you have to go to menu. And after that, you select drive mode, and then you change your timer. Now, is there a shortcut? Yes, there is a shortcut, as you will see out here. So what is the shortcut? Shortcut is this, that I directly press on this side and my drive mode comes out. So I do not have to go through all that hassle. All I do is click on the left-hand corner of this scroll wheel, and this option pops out. I don't know whether you can see or not. All these options pop out, okay? So with that said, let's go back to the menu again. And then there is called bracket settings. Now, I would not touch this bracket settings at all, because so there is something called automatic bracketing. There is a lot of bracketing techniques that can be applied, but I would not turn this on at all. Like bracketing does mess up a little bit if you do not know what you are doing. Then there is an interval shooting function, which means that you can shoot in intervals of 5 seconds and 6 seconds. So when will this interval shooting occur, or when can you use this? Well, this can be used for time lapses. This can be used for hyperlapses or motion lapses. So you can start your shooting, start time maybe 1 second, shooting interval is like a 5 second or 6 second split, and then number of shots you can decide on how long your clip is going to be. 30 frames a second. 30 frames a second means that 30 shots will make 1 second shot. So if you want to shoot more, you have to multiply that with the amount of minutes. So that's how many shots you have to take to create a time lapse, right? So that, and then you can select the shutter type interval. You can go for electronic shutter or a mechanical shutter. I would select electronic shutter rather than mechanical shutter. Okay, so let's go back to menu again. And this is memory recall. So, not a lot of people uses memory recall these days. Number 4 was that. Number 5. Alrighty, focus mode. Focus mode is one of the most important chapter in this thing, because this shows how to control autofocus. Now, I probably should make another video, but I'm going to show you through the basics of understanding autofocus. Now, when you go to focus mode, always try to keep it in AFC, which is continuous autofocus. Now, AS is single shot AF, which means that you have to change the autofocus every single time. And AFA is automatic autofocus. Now, I do not trust the automatic autofocus on the Sonys a lot. I would actually keep it on continuous autofocus. And I would actually say not to use manual focus until and unless you're using it for photography. The reason behind is that in manual focus, so for example, I'm going and trying to shoot right now, I have to set focus. So it's very weird that at first you have to press the center button, and then you have to scroll this wheel to select the focus. Now this will take a lot of time, and this is more for people, those who are shooting night lapses, time lapses and stuff like that. It is not meant for people, those who are shooting video. So if you're doing video work, do not even think about touching the way the autofocus has been set. So go back and select continuous autofocus. Okay, focus area is one of the most important stuff also, and you can do zone autofocusing or wide autofocusing. In wide, it selects this part of the screen. Now I have made this picture, or I have made my screen look like this, because that black border that you see on the two sides is my frame that has more phase detect autofocus. On the corners, there are more contrast detect autofocus. Phase is always very, very accurate, because it actually tries to analyze how far is the object and how far are you and how far is the background. So it understands the depth between you and the background. So phase is always better. Try to use this part of frame when you are doing autofocusing, when you are doing vlogging, autofocusing. Try to remain in this part of the frame. Okay, so let's move out from there, and let's talk about zone autofocus. Now, back in I think last year, I did a tutorial on Sony a6400, and I'm going to link you down below. So in that video, I was actually explaining you that how to change a zone autofocusing. So zone autofocusing can be selected from the scroll wheel. It covers more or less 85 to 90% of your sensor. So you'll see that it's mostly restricted in that phase autofocus section, rather than extending all the way to contrast detect autofocus. So this can be used in various purposes, and if you watch my other video, which was a Sigma lens kind of a review, I have used zone for autofocusing, and I did a tutorial of how to use zone autofocusing. I'll post a link in the description. In that lens review, you will find the tutorial for how to use zone autofocusing. So get out from there, and then there is face and eye detect. Now, I find this to be a very good feature, but I have a problem with this feature. The feature is that I have to do subject detection. So at first I have to denote a subject. Now, if you want to do it for yourself, you can give yourself priority, and this is spot on. If you do not understand how to use zone autofocusing, I would say go ahead and do this face priority and eye priority in autofocus. Just go ahead and do that, because this will save your time. and you can even register faces on animals and face or iframe display. I've kept it on auto and I've kept it on on, and this will be more available when you're doing movies and stuff like that. So right now you'll see it's not highlighted. So when you go to mode and change this to like movies or anything, you will see this pop up. Okay, so go back, and pre-autofocus is on. I would actually keep that. Focus frame color, white or red. I would say keep it white. I would not keep it red. And AF area clear, autofocus area auto clear. Some people have seen that they turn this on, but I would not recommend you, because you'll be overwhelmed again. So that, and I always do this. So display contrast autofocus area and phase detect area. What does that mean? That means is that you see these corners, these are phase detect area, and the rest corners are contrast detect area. So that is the reason I always display this. I keep these grids in my display, because I know out of these edges my autofocus will be a little sketchy. So that is the reason I keep this on. A circle for focus point, there is no need to press any circle for focus points, like there is no need to do circulation on that, and there is no need to do or set autofocus, because this is more for like manual focus system. Now comes exposure. You do not need to use exposure compensation from here. For that you have ISO button shortcut, which is out here. So let's go back again, and if you press this side of the scroll wheel, you can access your ISO. A quick tip is that if you do not understand, you can access more 40 to 50% of these features just by clicking the function button. So the best way to do is go ahead and click the function button. You can access the focus area, exposure, you can access ISO, product showcase, a steady shot, soft skin effect, a white balance, creative style, and ND filters. So if you want to access ND filter, you can access the ND filter out here. I have set up another function button, which is a C2 button. This is set for like ND filter, but this happens on a different mode when I am in movie mode. So when I'm in movie manual exposure mode, I actually select this, and I can get my ND on and ND off. So one of the best features of the Sony ZV-1 is that you can actually use these custom buttons for other purposes. Also, whenever you are in movie mode, you will see that it auto crops and gives you that 16:9 feeling, so that you understand what will be your frame for your subject. Now let's go back to menu. And after that, metering mode is multi, phrase priority on multi-metering is on. Now we are page number 8. For this, you do not need to touch this, because Sony ZV-1 doesn't have a flash, so which means that this will be used only if you are attaching an external flash. White balance. One of the trickiest part of all sort of photography is white balance. White balance custom cards can be used for this scenario, but you can also match with the color of the light. So in this, I have two sort of light. One is this light, which is at, let's go and check it out together, which is running at 6000 kelvins. So this is 6000 Kelvin, and I have another light source which is coming from there, and I have another light source coming from there. So it's better to do is a custom white balance. For a custom white balance, you have to use white and gray cards to understand what sort of white balance is there. But to make matter easy, you can actually use auto white balance for a scenario. So you can always press auto white balance and it selects an auto white balance. Okay, just do not go into all the like features or all the professional level. You can stick to basic level and still get your job done. Priority set for auto balance, I would say keep it as standard. There is no need to change this. I would actually go and select more into creative styles. Normal, you can select color pop, you can select posterization color. A retro, you can select soft and high key, red priority, which is one of the most important feature, because if I take this and I like shoot where I've got this whole thing, as you can see right now, that it is trying to focus on those red two buttons out there, which I'm having, So it gives priority to red. This is a very good feature which is not available in a lot of premium cameras, folks. So I would love to use this red priority a lot. And then, you know, high contrast mono, which is, you know, like a monochrome kind of a scenario. So pretty darn good options on picture effect, and picture profile is where your S-Log is at. Alrighty, all those folks that you want to select a S-Log or S-Log2 or anything, or flat profile, you have to scroll all the way down. These are standard profiles and everything which you can play around with. Go to PP7, that's your S-Log2. PP8 is your S-Log3. PP9 is an S-Log3, and I think it's another color gamma kind of a combination. And this is your HLG combination, which is HLG and BT2020 combination. So if you want to play around, I would say that stick around and play with S-Log2 and S-Log3. So PP7 and PP8 will give you like a flat profile. So for example, right now you will see that it gives me more of those flat profiles where colors are not popping and everything. It's more flat in colors. Okay, so that's going to be your picture profile. One of the most acclaimed features of Sony is that Sony actually allows people to shoot S-Log2, S-Log3, so that videographers like us who can, color grade later on using post-production. Soft skin effect, these are for beauty vloggers. If you want to soften your skin, you can use this. I usually not prefer this, but I would actually use this if ever I want a soft skin effect, but for me it's not helpful at all. Focus magnifier, manual focus assist, we are going to get out of this section because this is more for using manual focus, so you are not entering into this section. Product showcase is a new showcase feature. You know, like there is a dedicated button now where you can use a product showcase set for different sort of product photography and stuff like that. Face registration, smile to shutter, these are gimmicks, I would say, and there is no purpose of using something like this. I would not even touch this. Now we are going to move to the second page. In second page, it's going to be like kind of a video dedicated section. So exposure mode, keep it as manual. For people, those who are shooting video, go to menu again. Exposure mode, HFR. Again, on HFR, you're going to set it later on. File format is XAVCS 4K, HD, and AVC HD. Now, in 4K, we'll be shooting 4K, obviously. There are three options. You can shoot 24p, and then you can shoot 30p also. I shoot at 30p. Later on when I convert that into 24p, but I shoot 30p 100 megabits. Right now I'm going to shoot 30p 60 megabits. It depends on what sort of video I am doing. In HFR settings, you can select your frame rate. So you can, recording setting is 60p, and my frame rate, as you can see, I always keep it at 960. But 960 at 1080p is fine. I do not have any problem with that, but I would say 480 frames per second is more than enough to get that slow motion. But it's good to have a 960. Sometimes you might use it for other purposes. Proxy recording, autofocus drive speed. Now, autofocus drive speed, keep it as fast. Autofocus tracking sensitivity, keep it responsive. And you can use standard, but in standard it slows down the motor a little bit. So if you're looking for, like, this actually is very interesting, I've never thought of this. So autofocus tracking standard means that there'll be a slow transition. Actually, you know what, I will change this to standard also. It's a good thing that I saw this now. Auto slow shutter, keep this on. Okay, you don't have to mess around with this. Focus magnification is not required. Audio level display is a must feature. Keep this on because this will show you your audios and everything, channel 1 and channel 2, what's going on with the stereo. You gently tap on top of the microphone, you can see whether your microphone is working or not. Also used most of the time when you are shooting with this Comica, which is like wireless lav microphone. Comes in pretty handy to have a microphone displayed like that, or audio levels displayed like that. Then wind noise reduction. So the Sony zv1 actually has this. The wind kind of protection system. You put this, and this fur actually protects you from any sort of wind noise. And on top of it, you can use wind noise reduction. Steady shot. Now for me, I do not use steady shot for the reason behind, because it crops the video. Very good in stabilization, but I find it that, you know, my frame is a little bit cropped, and I freak out for some reason when I see my frame is too cropped in, and I feel cramped in that frame. So that is the reason I keep steady shot off. But I would recommend you, for all you vloggers out there, those who are doing any sort of filmmaking, handheld, you do not have a stabilizer or anything, this is a must to turn it on. Then is marker display. You can use this, but you will never use this as a marker display and settings. Record lamp is on. What is this? This is going to be the front lamp out here, in the front out here. This is the lamp that should be on. In that way, you can understand what's going on. Movie without shutter, turn this off, so that accidentally, whenever you do not click any of these buttons, suddenly your movie will turn on. So I keep this off. So steady shot shutter and zoom settings, optical zoom. Okay, here it comes. Release without card, enable, you can disable it. Shutter type, keep it auto. And steady shot for pictures, it's very important you keep steady shot on. Okay, I think out of the box, the factory settings, it will be off, so keep that on. Optical zoom settings, in zoom speed, go ahead and click normal, so that whenever you zoom in, it gives you that slow transition of zooming in, rather than going like this, you know, like going like this. I think this is not very cinematic at all. You have to zoom in slowly. That's what a zoom speed is all about. Display button, zebra, guidelines. Okay, so display button, zebra, and grid line. Grid line is the one that I use, so rule of third grids. As you will see that it's already been selected. So what does that mean? That means is that I'll get this grid lines, okay, available for me. So go back to menu again. Exposure set guide is on. Live display, live view display is setting effect is on, and auto review, I've kept it off, but please go ahead and turn it on for at least 2 to 5 seconds. I would say keep it at 2 seconds. You know, it's better to do a review of whatever pictures you're taking. I'm kind of tired. I will take a small break and I will come back myself. Alrighty, we are back, and custom operations. In custom key, you can change all the keys out here. As you can see that I have button 1, which is this button as a showcase set, focus 2, which is standard, drive mode, and ISO as number 4. So you can change all of this stuff out here according to your preference. So go ahead and do that. Custom key for my number 1, which is going to be out here. This is number 1. I've changed this to ND filter. I have not played around with other ones because I'm going to understand the camera a little bit more, and I'm going to change the custom keys according to that. So there's a custom key on this side, this side, this side. Okay, so this is like for people, those who wants an easy access of all that feature. Hold on. Yeah, menu. And that's it. And function of touch operation. So function of touch operation is pretty darn good, because this is a touch screen, but it only works when you want to focus. I would say touch tracking is a little bit sketchy. I've tested out touch tracking. So what happens is that, so let's go and click touch tracking. So it selects an area and tries to track. But I do not like this feature at all. You know, like I feel that tracking control, I mean, like I do not use it, to be honest. So what I do is that I go to menu and I will change this to touch focus. Touch focus is what you're going to use all the time. But if you are doing tracking, go ahead and change that to touch tracking. And audio signals, always keep it on. In that way, you have that confirmation that you know, you're taking a video, you have just taken a picture. Otherwise, this can be super silent. So where are you going to use this? So for example, in a very silent environment, we're doing small works like in a church or anything, small meetings. If you want to turn off your audio signal, that's going to be in custom operation 2, page number 9. So that's it. Now we are into network. Now, folks, excessive drain of battery if you keep this function on. So you will see it has been turned off, and this is how you connect this to the app and everything. So for that, let me just try to disconnect this, because otherwise it will not show. So send to smartphone function, send to smartphone, select on smartphone. That's what you're going to do all the time. When you click this, it will look for your smartphone and it will turn on the Wi-Fi. In that way, you can quickly transfer all of your pictures and videos directly to your iPhone or iPad. And you can select send to computer using Wi-Fi. You can view on TV, control with smartphone, and PC remote function. Now, PC remote function is going to be available if you're using this with stabilizers like Zhiyun crane and stuff like that. But in PC remote, right now, we are going to select, we are not going to select anything. Airplane mode, keep this on. This will save you so much of battery, turning off all of those smart features. So tip number, this is a huge tip, that keep your airplane mode on. Wi-Fi settings, this is a place where you're going to select your Wi-Fi access points and everything. Bluetooth settings, so I told you this has a Bluetooth also inbuilt. Keep all of these off right now, but whenever you want to transfer your pictures or images, you can go ahead to this page, which is the third page, and these two network options. Playback, you can protect all the images, rotate, delete, and you can read this. And you can specify this for printing if you want. Beauty effect will be used by a lot of vloggers, so you can select beauty effect. You can select beauty effect out here. I will not touch the playback 2 option at all. These are pretty self-explanatory. You do not need to do anything out here. Now, this is a setup. Monitor brightness. So you have to keep your monitor brightness as max. When you're shooting XAVCS 4K, it's automatically done. Gamma display assist. Okay, gamma display assist. So in gamma display assist, it's very interesting. It actually gives you that conversion of S-Log2, S-Log3, and how will it look in post. Now, this is a feature that is present in probably one of my Blackmagics, and when I use this, I love this feature. So this is more for videographers or pro videographers who want to use this. Volume settings, I keep it at max, to be honest. Keep it at max so that whenever you see this, you can understand this. Delete, confirm, cancel at first. So whenever you press this, at first press cancel, then you delete, so that you do not automatically delete everything. Auto monitor off, I've selected this as do not turn it off. Auto monitor off, I've selected this, does not turn off. You can select 2 seconds or 5 seconds or 10 seconds according to whether you want to turn this off or not. Okay. Number 2 is power saver. 2 minutes is a power saving time. That's fine. Power off with monitor, you can do this. So which means that whenever you are taking this monitor and turning this around and closing it, it will also turn off your camera. So I would say not power off, because what happens is that sometimes you just want to check pictures or anything. You do not want the lens to come out. I would say keep it on that position. Okay, just select this, not power off. Auto power off temperature. Now keep this high, because your stuff or temperature may rise according to recording. But I would keep this as high to get the maximum amount of recording I can get, because I use this camera a lot and I have an insurance plan on this. So if you're watching this from UK or somewhere outside US where you guys do not have insurance plans or anything, you will go ahead and select auto power of temperature as standard to save your battery and to save your camera from overheating and internals to be tweaked. NTSC pulse selection, do not need to do anything on this. You do not need to worry on this. HDMI settings and TCUB settings. One of the main settings, TCUB settings, you are not going to go through as a regular person. This is not for you. This is for pros. HDMI settings. Now, if you want to connect this to a Shinobi monitor or a Shogun Atomos Shogun monitor, you would require to select what sort of output you want to do, what sort of resolution you want to do, and this is the page that you need to think about while controlling this. USB connection, one of the very important feature whenever you want to connect a USB, whenever you're connecting this to PC, you select mass storage, and MTP whenever you are connecting this to a Zhiyun Crane 3 lab or any sort of stabilizer. Launch settings, I've kept it as multi. There is no need to put it as single. Keep it as multi. And USB power supply on, folks. Only then you can use an external power bank to power your device. Language, you can change out here. And this is the area when you press, you can format your memory card. So it's going to be on page number 5, and it will be number 4 on your setup. And you can create folders if you want, file and folder settings. This is not even required, but if you want, you can always do this. If you want to reset, again, it's going to be in the setup page. Now, my menu is a menu where everything is going to be displayed on stuff that I use on a daily basis. So you will see that on a daily basis, I use the shoot mode or anything, my ND filter, white balance, soft skin effect, file format, and record settings. And out here, you can add an item to your My Menu page so that you can quickly access. Now, as you can see, this thing was on for a long time, and it was high. The temperature was high, and it turned it off itself. One of the biggest problems of this Sony ZV-1 is that after 30 or 40 minutes, if you do not keep this thing open, the internals turn hot. Alrighty, folks, there you go. That was all from the channel Techado. I hope you guys understood the menu and the settings. If you are doing video, try to keep it. If suppose this is too extensive for you and you're like overwhelmed with the information, just keep everything on auto, shoot in auto, let the camera decide for you, because this is sort of a camera that actually decides itself pretty darn good, and you do not need any sort of extra features on this, or maybe extra tinkering on this. That's how I would put it. And I hope for those users, those who learned a little bit, do share your comments below. If you have some questions, I will try to find a little bit of time out of my busy schedule, and I will try to answer those questions to you. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Stay tuned, as I'm trying to make more presentations that are going to help everybody out in this time of lockdown. Also a very good time to learn about your cameras that you're purchasing. Also a very good time to learn photography and videography. So stay tuned, and till then, next time, adios, take care, good night.